Okay, so what we were looking at here is customer lifetime is the conversation value model, and with this, it combines two different aspects: the lifetime value model and a word-of-mouth referral value. So lifetime value is looking at what is the value of a consumer's purchases over the course of their time with the company. And that's a great kind of tried and true approach in marketing. But if you just look at the value that a customer brings through his or her own purchase behavior, you're undervaluing really what the true value is of that customer, because that person is also bringing in a business or taking away business as a result of their word of mouth. So what this model looks at is, at least from the lifetime value approach, is what is the profit per unit that a company makes? What is how many purchases does that customer make over, let's say, like a year period of time? Well, and you typically use that as a retention rate. And then with the discount rate at the time value of money. So money in your pocket now is worth more than money later. Then we look at what the word of mouth value is. So how long does a customer continue to recommend your product? How many people do they recommend to? And we measure that in generations, which I'll explain in a second. And then what percentage of those people who are referred actually go on to purchase it? The third set of numbers are looking at the number of people who are engaged in a program, and then also what the costs of the program are. So let me show you a concrete example of this case study. This was for a word-of-mouth advocacy program. It was for a premium all-natural pet food. The goal of the program was to increase awareness about this new product, to increase recommendations, and then also to increase new trials. And the metrics that we were using for the measurement is what is the overall reach, the number of people reached, the cost for conversion, and the conversation value, which is what's the bottom line impact of each time a consumer has a conversation to the brand's bottom line. So as I mentioned before, we measure the reach and the impact in terms of generations. So the initial people who are engaged in any program, whether it's a sampling program, would be the number of the people who received a sample, or the number of people who attended an event. If it's an influencer marketing program, it would be the number of influencers who were engaged. So here there were 5,000 people who were engaged in the program. On average, they told about 12 other people during the course of a program. So that results in about 60,000 people reached. And then on average, those people went out and told just under 3 people, which results in another about 170,000 people reached. So the total reach for this program was 240,000. Now, we also then follow up with each of those sample of each of those people each generation to find out how many of those people actually reported purchasing the product. And what we're looking at here are new customers only. So these are incremental customers that the company wouldn't have had if it wasn't for this program. So as you might expect, people who are directly engaged and involved in a program are going to have a very high purchase rate, and we see that here, about 70%. And that drops off, pretty steeply when it goes out to the next generation. But still a fairly robust, about 27% of those next generation of people purchase, leading to about 16,000 more purchases. And then the people that they told at the second generation, we see another drop-off in terms of the purchase rate, which is about 15%, adding an additional 25,000 purchases. Now, with those that generational reach and the generational purchase rates, now you can actually walk through the model. So here's how we do this. So if you have 5,000 program participants that you start with, you can look at their purchases that they make, but also the purchases of the people with whom they talk to and the people with whom they talk to. When you multiply that times the number of purchases that they'll make over the course of a year, you can determine what your overall profitability is, or your money in. And in this case, this was a fairly gourmet pet food, so it had a fairly sizable profit margin on that and a higher price point, leading into $880,000 that would be coming in that we could attribute to this program. Now, it cost $275,000. So if you ran a straight ROI analysis by looking at the lifetime value purchases, meaning not only the purchases that took place during the campaign, but the anticipated purchases they would make over a year, you see it over 200% ROI, or another way of thinking about that, for every dollar you spent, that's $3.20 back to the brand. If you just looked at the ROI without those additional purchases over the course of a year, for every dollar spent, you'd have $1.64 coming back. You can also, using this method, get a cost per conversion, because you have the number of purchases, and then what the program cost work. So this was about a $6 cost per conversion. And this is a metric, obviously, that you can compare across channels to see how efficient it is compared to other methods. And then you can, using the reach and the overall profitability, you can determine your conversation value, which here it's $3.68. So that's how much money that this brand made each time a consumer talked about the product with a new person that was reaching the program. But the brand had to spend $1.15 to generate each of those conversations. So the net conversation value is $2.53. So what this really does is it helps you to determine what a specific value is for a conversation. And if there's a positive conversation value, then that is another indicator that this was a program with a positive ROI.